This story happened a few years ago to a man whose life was forever changed by a mysterious message received at midnight. The man wakes up in the middle of the night to find a voicemail from an unknown number. In the message, someone whispers an address. "Follow the old bridge road. You'll find me there." At first, he assumes it's a prank, but curiosity gets the better of him. Early the next morning, he drives to the location. At the end of the road, he discovers a small, forgotten cemetery. Among the tombstones, one catches his eye. It has his own name engraved on it. Returning home in a panic, he receives another voicemail. This time, the whispers are clearer.
"You must not make a mistake, or they'll find you."
Terrified, he considers going to the police, but hesitates due to the warning in the message. As days go by, he receives more messages, each warning him about small mistakes he's made. One night, he receives another message.
"It's too late now. Check behind your door."
In utter terror, he turns around and in the dim light, sees a dark figure watching him. He screams, but the camera cuts abruptly. The next morning, the police arrive at his house, but the man has vanished without a trace. However, his phone remains on the floor, with one final message displayed on the screen.
"I finally found you."
The man's scream echoed through the house, but no one heard it. Neighbors reported seeing the lights in his house flicker erratically, and then everything went dark. The next morning, when the police entered his home, they found no trace of him. Only his phone was left behind, lying on the floor, with the last message still displayed on the screen. A few days later, a woman named Claire moved into the same neighborhood. Claire was a tech enthusiast who loved experimenting with new gadgets. One night, while working late in her home office, she received a text message from an unknown number. Claire laughed, thinking it was spam or a silly prank. But as the night went on, strange things began happening. Her laptop screen flickered. Her phone's battery drained unusually fast, and faint whispers seemed to echo from the corners of her room. The next evening, she decided to investigate. Searching online, she found a news article about the missing man. Strangely, the article didn't include his name, only a blurred photo of his house. Something felt off. Claire zoomed in on the photo and froze. In the reflection of a window, she could see a dark figure watching the photographer. That night, Claire locked every door and window in her house. She placed her phone on her bedside table, determined not to look at any more messages. But at 3:00 a.m., her phone buzzed violently, lighting up the room. The message was simple. Against her better judgment, Claire peered through her window. At first, there was nothing but the empty street bathed in pale moonlight. But then she saw it, a tall, shadowy figure standing under the flickering street lamp. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. It just watched. Terrified, she called the police, but when they arrived, the figure was gone. The officers told her it was probably a prankster, but Claire knew better. The messages continued. She started piecing things together. Every victim of this unknown number had vanished after ignoring its warnings or trying to fight back. The messages weren't random, they were a trap. The more you engaged, the closer it got to you. Claire decided to outsmart it. She left her phone at home one night and drove to a remote area, thinking distance would protect her. But as she stepped out of her car radio suddenly turned on, blasting static. Then came a distorted voice.
"You can't run from me."
The shadow appeared again, this time closer, standing right behind her car. Claire grabbed a flashlight from her glove box and shone it directly at the figure. For a brief second, she saw it a featureless face, with hollow eyes that seemed to pull her soul into endless darkness. Her scream echoed through the forest, just like the man before her. The next morning, her car was found abandoned on an empty road. Her phone was on the driver's seat, displaying one final message. A week later, another phone buzzed at midnight. A new message appeared.